Nigeria is a nation that is richly blessed in human and natural resources. In spite of our abundance, we have one or two things that actually binds us together very, very strongly. One of such is sports. Some will say football, but basically every kind of sport binds us together in Nigeria. And well, we'll be taking a journey somewhat into the world of sports as we welcome you to another interesting time out on Executive Discourse. I am Ololade Adeniji. On the show today, I have a guest with me in the studios. Well, in his office, which is now my studio. He has been gracious enough to allow us invade his privacy, invade his space here. And I'm talking of none other than the Honorable Minister of Youth and Sports for the Federal Republic of Nigeria, in person of Mr. Sunday Dare. Like I said, he's allowed me into his office and to invade his privacy. Good day, Honorable Minister.
How are you?
Very well, thank you. And thanks for allowing us into your office.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Thank you so much. Can I?
Yes, please grab a seat.
Thank you. Let's start basically by meeting you as a person. Yes, we know that you're the Honorable Minister of Youth and Sports. And I know that you started out as a journalist. Of course, you're one of us. And I'm wondering how that journey that you have now gotten to where you are. So can you quickly tell us about how it all started?
Absolutely. It's been a very momentous journey, a lot of twists and turns. But of course, a number of victories and laurels too. Lessons learned along the way, skills picked up along the way, network built along the way, and eventually moving from Nigeria to America, transcending two big worlds, has had its own positive impact in my life. So being a journalist, I've worked as a radio broadcaster, a magazine journalist, part-time TV journalist, both at the Voice of America and also when we started the NN24, the first 24-hour television station in Nigeria. But along that journey, I've also become a writer. I've written about 3 or 4 books. One of them won an international award, the Sigma Delta Award in America. And then I write a lot of speeches too. So it's been all about writing, about speaking, about reporting. But I think the most defining is the fact that I cut my teeth as an investigative journalist. And for over 15 years, I was one of the few editors around the world that belonged to the Investigative Editors Association based in the US.
So would you say that your foundation in journalism has prepared you for where you are today?
Well, without journalism, I don't know where I will have been today. Journalism was central, has been central to my journey as a professional, as an intellectual, as a writer, and today as an administrator. Like I said, lessons were learned. Journalism exposed me not only to politics, but to economics, to so many aspects of life and living. So I owe a lot to journalism, because journalism also grounded me. I recall the years of military dictatorship, the years we had to work underground as guerrilla journalists. That toughened me. And from then on, it also catapulted me, gave me opportunities to go out there and go to some of the best journalism schools in the world, from New York University to Harvard University to Oxford University. It was journalism as a profession that gave me those opportunities, and I seized on them.
Wow, fantastic. Tell us about your time at the Nigerian Communications Commission.
Well, first, I was appointed Federal Executive Commissioner by President Muhammadu Buhari sometime in 2016. I spent about 2 years and 7+ months as the Executive Commissioner Stakeholder Management, which basically meant that I was in charge of catering for 172 telephone subscribers across the country. But also I oversaw consumer-facing departments in terms of licensing and authorization, in terms of the legal department, in terms of compliance department, consumer affairs department. I think that you see the convergence between journalism and telecommunications. Everything we do now relies on the telecommunications infrastructure that we have. So for me, it was like a transition from analog journalism to a world that was digital, that became the strongest tool for journalism to expand its frontiers. Remember the W.20 technology that gave birth to the digital platforms that made publishing easy and very individual. It broke down the barriers of the gateway of editors. Everyone became a journalist because you had access. And so it was really interesting to be able to play a key role in ensuring that Nigerians enjoy the benefit of the telecom technology.
Okay, well, I have other questions concerning communications, but
I can imagine.
Yes, but let's leave that, for some time now. Coming to where you're at today, the Ministry of Youth and Sports. Sports is a binding force for Nigerians, and either we like it or not, in recent times, our fortunes seem to have been tilting to the right and to the left, not anything, really straightforward in terms of sports.
That's why it's called fortunes. When it's fortune, it goes one way, left or right. But you see, very often we're quick to compare Nigeria's sports development to that of America, to that of Europe. But then before you do that comparison, before you compare, you must be certain you're comparing oranges with oranges. Is Nigeria as developed as those countries? Not exactly. Are we on that journey? Yes. Some of the critical factors that we need to have a sports development that can throw up the kind of athletes that we want and sustain them over time, we don't have that yet. Are there ongoing efforts to make sure we have that? Absolutely. Do we have infrastructure and facilities that we need? Do we have the equipment, the latest equipment for sportsmen and women that we need? That's why you see Nigerians go abroad and they excel, because they're exposed to the facilities and the equipment that they need. Now, there's a process going on. We need to do that. Also, the pay is better there because sports is business. It's only in this country that sport is classified as recreation. There's no business model around it. Some people call it play. Sport does not get the funding that it needs. It only gets attention when Nigerians want to win gold or we want victory. And that attention is a short span of attention. The moment a football game is lost, Nigerians walk away. If there's another opportunity for us to win gold or win, they come around. But I think government is beginning to refocus its plans and also re-strategize in 3 key areas.
Okay.
Policy. We need a sports policy that focuses on a business model. We must turn our sports into business for the sake of creating jobs for our youth, for the sake of generating revenue for the government, also for the sake of taking care of the athletes, because they can get better pay, they can get grants, they can get also welfare support. Right now, there's no welfare support for our sportsmen and women. And we came in, we have talked about setting up an athlete sustenance fund. You can call it whatever name, athlete sustenance fund, National Sports Development Fund, whatever. There must be a fund that caters for both retired and serving athletes. That's one. So we need policy in that direction, and we're doing something about that. We also need infrastructure. Our facilities across the country, they are in a state of disrepair and neglect, basically because of the challenge of funding, but also basically the challenge of administration. We have put ourselves to the task that we will try to leverage on some public-private partnership, bringing private funds into sports infrastructure development. This country right now is a football nation.
Yes.
The question is how many football pitches do we have that are world standard or FIFA compliant? Perhaps one.
Wow.
But we're changing that. We're changing that. We have 4 national stadiums across the country: Ibadan, Lagos, Kaduna, and Abuja. Perhaps between now and probably mid next year, these 4 stadiums should be up and running, world standard. Yes, we've been able to secure.
You see the look on my face.
Yes, and I can break it down.
Okay.
Abuja Stadium, we came up with an adoption campaign, adopt a football pitch. And we went for private individuals. Will you adopt this pitch for us? Fix it up, maintain it for 2 years.
Okay.
What do you get in return? We give you branding rights. We brand a number of seats in the stadium with your company logo. We give you free tickets when there are matches there, because when the stadium is fixed, we bring a lot of matches to come and play here. We give you, you can also advertise using some of our buttresses around the stadium. And we got someone who bought into that, who will do it. The money won't come to us, but we'll work with experts to do it. Dangote is on record.
The 4 of the...
No, that's for Abuja.
Okay.
Abuja. Just last week, we had visited in September the Ahmadu Bello Stadium in Kaduna. We met with the governor.
Okay.
He said we should send in a technical report. He has reviewed it. Out of the 12 areas we need fixed in the stadium, the governor wrote us back, is going to fix 8 of them. Wow. Major. That's about 80% of what. So Abuja is coming back on stream. Ahmadu Bello Way. National Stadium is in play. A concession process will soon start. But before that starts, we have someone who is committed to say, I'm willing to fix certain aspects of the National Stadium in Lagos to get it started, pending when the concession process is concluded. And I did announce that on Monday. So what's left out is Liberty Stadium. And we also have a plan. That's the Obafemi Awolowo Stadium in Ibadan. Yes. We also have a plan to get that started. But beyond that, you also know that grassroots sports development is critical. We have mini stadiums across, township stadium across. We're looking at them. Some of them are coming back. Some of them are constituency projects. And we think that with the renewed focus and the renewed partnership with the private sector, with the effort to change the perception about sports generally in this country, people are becoming more receptive to the pitch or the pitches we are making to them, to say, partner with us, because it has benefits for our youth, it has benefits for even our adults. Also, just imagine, somebody becomes a professional footballer from a poor background. He starts to make money. He brings that money back, builds schools, hospitals, gives scholarship. You're fighting poverty. What better way to use sports to fight poverty? And the last one, we need to attract investment. The government needs to create incentives. So when we do what we call the 3 I's and 1 P, infrastructure, investment, incentives, and policy. We will say we have started. And we have started working on that.
Wow. I mean, I'm wowed by this information that you have passed across. But good enough, you mentioned football. Nigeria is a footballing nation. And somehow in the 90s, we seemed to get it right into the 2000s. I don't know what we did right then. But I'm wondering, how did we get here? Take, for instance, the Olympics is around the corner. And not one of our footballing teams will be going to the Olympics. Nigeria, a nation that prides itself as an Olympic gold medal winner, a footballing nation. How did we get here? I'm looking now, this question is not just about sports, but basically within the microcosm of football.
Very clearly, I see you're a lover of football.
I love football.
And what you just said about the state of our football as a football nation concentrates the mind. That is, it worries me even as an ordinary Nigerian. I speak now as an ordinary Nigerian. I love football too. But then the question we should ask, or we're asking, is where did the rain start to beat us? Where did we start to get it wrong? But perhaps backing up to look at when it really worked, what were the things that worked then? We had a grassroots football development system. Young footballers, talented footballers were picked from the grassroots, from the secondary schools, the academic house, remember, Principal's Cup.
Yes.
They were nurtured over time. We had a robust domestic league. We had a National Sports Commission with technical depth that administered sports in a professional way, even though not without the business, whatever, but it was done in a very professional way. So when you put those together, we also had some of these facilities were fantastic. Obafemi Awolowo Stadium in Ibadan was fantastic. Ahmadu Bello Stadium, excellent. National Stadium, excellent. All the matches were coming in. The league was very robust. It was very competitive. You knew that if you had a good team and you go out there to play, your chances of winning was not dependent on a referee or some officials, was dependent on the skills of your players. Yes. And to some extent, maybe 5% of luck. But we saw, competition, we saw transparency, we saw professionalism, aided by also the facilities that we had. And then we saw a bit of some of these games, the joy of going to that stadium to watch the game and knowing that you're secured. There will not be a riot, you'll not be beaten up. Now, when you look at that, some of these have disappeared. Our stadiums are empty. Perhaps because the game is no longer exciting? No. The football pitches are no longer good. Security cannot be guaranteed. Okay? And then people distrust the officiating, and that is a big problem. So, and then you look at the level of football administration in this country over time has been bogged down and trapped in a perception that those who handle our football are not true professionals or are not transparent enough. They are not proactive. And that's it. We don't have to really dig too deep. Don't also forget that time the monies were coming in. Over time, we reached a peak when sponsorship also went up, and then suddenly it went down. Why? Because people started to doubt the competition went out. People started to doubt the refereeing and officiating, and all of this came together. And that's where we are today. Is something being done about it? Absolutely. We're trying to change the fundamentals of our football administration in this country. It's not something that can be done in 4 or 5 months or even a year or two. Our own commitment is to make sure that we do the foundational work, the fundamental work that is necessary, such that in the next 5 or 10 years, whatever we envision today, the government can run with it. But then we need a lot of critical stakeholders to work with us. We have started that journey. It's not an easy journey, but we're committed to walk that path. It's a road less traveled.
I can only wish you the very best, because the picture that has been painted now, wow, it's a Herculean task. But I can only wish you the best, because I'm sure that I'm speaking for a lot of Nigerians who would love to have those matches back, would love to have a
Well, perhaps
back.
I should also say this. The AGM of the Nigerian Football Federation held, that's the annual general meeting, held in Benin. I wasn't there, but I sent in a speech. And that was a speech in which I took time to really state what was happening, but also state what we need to do to really change things around and make sure that we record more successes. I talked about the fact that, yes, we've had some victories, but then we've not seen the game of football grow. When our talents are there, but bulk of them are from overseas. We're not producing enough young talents from this. So we must return to grassroots football. We must create football nurseries where we feed these people through, and then they can go into different categories, under 17, under 23, and then the Super Eagles, in a deliberate way. We must have a national league, domestic league, that has a precise calendar. We must make it attractive to sponsors and investors. We must work on our facilities. We must return the Principal's Cup. And we plan to start the Headmasters' Cup. The Headmasters' Cup that will have about 10,000 primary schools across the country. As a pilot, there are about 64,000 primary schools. But we want to pick 10,000 primary schools from every state across the country. And then have, for the first time, Headmasters' Cup, working with the state governors and the local government. So imagine when you produce, very young football talents from that level, and you nurture them. It happens in other countries. It's not something new. We just need to commit to do it. We have private football academies. We're auditing all football academies right now. See how we can partner with them and give them support. Will Nigeria create a football academy of its own? No. Let the private sector do that. Perhaps we can now support them, and then the NFF can work with them to grow the game. But I love this game. And I think that Nigerians love this game too, I know.
I'm glad you do. I'm glad you do. Now, moving slightly away, but still talking sports. Tokyo 2020. What are we to expect? We know that we're sending a team. We know that we're going to have a representation, Team Nigeria. Right. In what sports are we looking at?
Tokyo 2020 actually began 4 years ago. It's often said that they asked one of the top athletes to say, when will you begin preparation for the next Olympic? He said, right after the last one. And yes, because at the individual level, if you're an athlete, you have to continue to compete so that you can garner points, with the International Athletics Federation or whatever your international body is. You must continue to compete. You go to championships, you go to tournaments, whether at the local level, the continental level, international level. They're structured, there's a plan over the years. So you must keep yourself within those programs. Oftentimes, they do them on their own. But working with the federations at the ministry, we're able to fund, part support some of these programs. So when people keep talking about 7 months, it is not a dash. It's a long distance.
Long distance.
So that has been going on, but it's completely off the radar. It has come back to radar now because we are getting to the closing mark when Olympics is here. So have we had our athletes prepare over time? Yes, that's why you have qualifiers. We've been to championships. We've had the All-African Games. We've had the Doha Championships. The wrestlers have gone. The boxers have gone. In fact, the way it's structured, you must go through a minimum number of competitions before you can even qualify. There's a qualifying window. And that prepares us. So it's not a dash. People say 7 months, are we ready? No. Have these athletes gone through the necessary tests, trials before this time? Yes, they have. And that's why we can safely look at a number of them who have already qualified.
Okay.
We announced 2 weeks ago that Nigeria will not compete in 25 sporting activities. There are lessons learned. Under President Jonathan, a committee was set up to review our participation in the Olympics. And they came back to say, we need to leverage on the sports we have competitive advantage. Okay. So this time we're looking at about 11. It might come down to 9, depending on how the qualifiers go, because some of them, badminton has not finished its qualifying window. But female basketball players also have 1 to go. But we're looking at about 11.
Now, you said about 11, there are 11 hopefuls now.
11
probably, probably will trickle down to 9. Can you give us an idea of, this particular sports?
Well, I can just mention a few.
Yes.
Of course, athletics comes first. And that's a whole package. And then you have wrestling, you have boxing. Interestingly, you have canoeing. Nigeria is winning gold in,
Canoeing.
Yes, canoeing. Of course, you have badminton is also there.
Basketball.
Basketball is there. Unfortunately, no football. But basketball is a team game. We're happy about the growth of basketball in the last 3 years in this country. I know that when you talk about theme games after football, basketball is also a big deal. So would there be any other surprises? Just wait and see, because some of them are still going through some qualifying windows.
It's interesting. I mean, I'm glad that Nigeria is investing in her athletes.
Yes, on time too.
Under your watch, and on time too. Well done. But still talking Olympics. Don't mind
You really love the Olympics.
Yes, because really...
Actually, that's the highest. That's the highest level.
And either we like it or not, there is something sports does to Nigeria.
Absolutely.
Regardless of our
differences. It's a source of unity.
Yes. Regardless of our differences
fosters
and
peace and unity.
Exactly.
That's true.
So still looking at the Olympics, I've always wondered about one particular sport. Don't mind me.
Okay.
We have a lot of water space around Nigeria.
Yes.
But we don't ever do well in swimming. We don't even ever compete in swimming. What is happening?
Maybe the fault is in our gods, in the gods. But I think that particularly is a good question. And you're right. Just look at the Niger Delta alone. The Niger Delta should be giving us some of the best swimmers. Or you go to the Argungu, the Northwest. And I think it's because, and swimming, you can easily win a lot of medals in swimming. You can cart away a lot of medals. I also think it's because we have not had a deliberate policy. That's what countries do. You see that you can have an advantage in this sporting area. You now set a deliberate policy to harness, hunt for talents, nurture them, and then unleash them on the world. I'll tell you, the fact that our swimming, the swimming pool at the National Stadium is functional now is because President Buhari, when they went to meet him at the villa, saw that we didn't win any medal in swimming. And they said, why? They said, the National Stadium has a swimming pool that's not working and the rest. And he made sure that funds was released to fix that. Now, beyond that facility that we need, the National Stadium swimming pool, we have one here, you must have a plan and then work with that plan. 5 days ago, I saw a video clip on the social media. This boy in Lagos, I'm going to see him early next year. They call him the fish. The boy is 8 years old. He swims like crazy. Wow. And he says, I want to go to the Olympics. He said that is all his dream.
My goal is to be a great swimmer, represent Nigeria in the Youth Olympics, and take over Michael Phelps' place in the future.
So, that's it. When they say the gold is in the child, that's what they mean. You can't wake up at age 25 and you want to win gold.
No.
The gold is in the child. That boy now, there's gold in him as a swimmer. We need to quickly capture him, put him through a process, monitor him as a country, support him educationally, support him training-wise, make sure there's a coach, and then plug him into competitions. He's just 8 years old. In another 4 or 5 years, this guy is going to be ready for the world. He can do continental championship, national championships. We just keep going. Look at the Serena sisters.
Yes.
And so many other stories.
Honorable Minister, from all we have discussed, you're obviously a busy man. I mean, I know how long it has taken to even get this interview done with you. Yes, I had to say that on camera.
I know. And I do apologize.
Apology accepted. I'm wondering, in all of this that you do,
Right.
how do you have time for your family?
You know, it's a constant juggle. First, I try to make sure I make up for that time by making sure I communicate. Or these are my days going, I have 5 things to do, and it's going to take me till this time. I might come late, and all of that. But then on days when I'm not really traveling, or I'm not in the office officially, I hardly spend time outside. I spend time at home, just to make up for that time I'm away. It's not been easy because it's a national task, and on behalf of Nigerians, you really have to do that, because when you also look at it, if you are picked as a minister by Mr. President in a country where you have abundant talent, then you need to know that you have a commitment that will take your time, take you away from the family. You just have to manage it. When you have that little time, you invest it in your family, and they appreciate that.
I have been speaking with the Honorable Minister of Youth and Sports of the Federal Republic of Nigeria in person of Mr. Sunday Dare. It's time now for us to take a look at a few other sides to this man. I mean, he's asked me to fasten my seatbelt, so perhaps we'll go on a ride together, and we'll also get to talk to 1 or 2 people who know this man more in-depthly than we do. The show is still Executive Discuss.
The man, Sunday Dare. We've been married for 25 years. I've known Sunday, we started dating when I was 17, and he was 20. We were actually doing our A-levels at Oscar Selefe. He was the most brilliant in my class. So we got married. We dated for about 9 years, got married September 1995. What do I say about my husband? He's a smart guy, very charming. He's a very loving husband. Like I said, it's like we grew up together, and I've always known him to be a very hard-working guy. I call him Hayomba. He never gets tired. He's the father of my girls. We have 3 girls together. He's good enough for me. I'm his perfect fit. He's my perfect fit. My husband doesn't like lazy people. He doesn't. He works 24 hours round the clock. So for you to be able to work with him, you have to have the same energy that he has. My husband, people don't know, he gets angry easily. You don't want him to get hungry. So you want to make sure that you're on his good books. It's a perfect gentleman. Sincerely, he is. People call him Bonanza. When we were dating, for a very long time, people didn't even know his name. We call him Bonanza. Bonanza. Sometime last December, I was in London, and I saw somebody that I saw. The last time I saw him was like 85 or something. I say, Sheba Boye Bonanza. I say, yeah, Bonanza. People call him Bonanza. They call him General. They call him Chief. BBG, SD. I call him Hayomba because he has so much energy. My daughter call him Daddy Dads. People want to be his PA. I say you can't be his PA. You have to be on the run. That is just him. Being a minister is just the tip of the iceberg, because I know he's still going places. He has always been like that. When I was dating my husband and I was about getting married to him, we had nothing. But you know what we had? He had potential. He had love for me, and he was hardworking, period. And I tell young couples, I say, trust me. I remember my husband's first car, the smoke, but I was happy because I knew that this guy, that is just who he is, hardworking, love, potential. He doesn't play with his wife. He doesn't play with his children, despite all. Is he a perfect man? Oh, no. But he serves God wholeheartedly. Because he has a fear of God, when he strays, he's back home. You get what I mean? Being a minister doesn't change who he is. That is how he works 24/7. When he was general editor of PM News, that is how he was. When he was chief of Hausa service, VOA, he will always put his mark wherever. When he leaves, they're asking for Sunday Diary. He's moved on. That's him.
I'll first like to say that I'm very thankful and grateful to have him as a father. One of my most fond memories growing up was tagging along with him to Bring Your Child to Work Day while he was still working at Voice of America in Washington, D.C. So being able to see my dad, being fulfilled in an environment where he could communicate, speak Hausa, and produce quality journalism really inspired myself and my sisters as well. I pursued a international relations bachelor's. My sister's currently doing communications. And I think that's largely because of just seeing how invested my dad has been or was, still is, in international relations in Africa and quality work as well. One of my other most fond memories include traveling. My dad loves to travel. I can fondly remember going to Disney World and London and Boston and just being exposed at a young age to the globalized world. And that's largely due to my dad's just very, very deliberate intentions, deliberate actions to make sure that we see that there's different languages and foods and cultures and religions. So that's definitely not just something that happened in my past, but he's still doing currently as well. Other things, other fond memories include my dad's great support in anything myself and my sisters do, whether it be academics or even social.
Interesting. He's a man of many attributes, but the ones that stand out for me really is Sunday is a very tenacious human being. If he has a task at hand, he focuses and he executes very clinically. And he is also somebody who doesn't take no, as it were. So he's a very positive human being. And, when the objective is clear, he often basically doesn't, tolerate, if you like, negative, this is why we can't do this or this is why we can't do that. So he's a very positive character, yes.
The first thing you should know about him is his work ethic. I have never met somebody more dedicated and more industrious, more focused on achieving his goals like Mr. Sunday Diary. This is a man who will work himself into the ground on whatever assignment he's given. He's taught me dedication. He's taught me to always be available to work. He's taught me to have an open mind. I remember that within a few months of working with him, I had to train myself to wake up at the first ring of the phone because you never know when he'll call you for an assignment. This is a man who works himself and his staff into the ground and so that's the first thing and most important thing to know about him. Secondly is that he's an intelligent man. He has a very generous heart. He understands where to place people in projects and he delegates very, very well. So, in a nutshell, if I'm to whittle it down to a few things, it's his work ethic, his intelligence, his mind, and his generosity. Those are the things that I use to qualify Mr. Sunday Diary.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can watch NTA International live on your TV, computer, iPad, tablet, and phone. Log on to visiontv.co.uk and click on Entertainment, then NTAI. You can also download the iOS or Android app on your mobile devices to watch NTA International on the go, anywhere in the world. NTA International, your window to the world.
Interesting. Finally, as we round off this discussion, what do you do in your leisure hours?
A television interview like this.
Yeah, right. Tell me more.
Well, I love fast cars. I love to drive. I like to get in the car and drive at night, very early in the morning. That's one. Two, I love to read journals, newspapers, novels, and then I love television, but only news channels. So I switch. I just look for where news is. I'm a news hound anyway. And that's it.
Maybe we should see a Lewis Hamilton in you.
Maybe. And of course, lately too, one of the things I do most is I have free time. I go around any sporting facility. I just get in the car and I want to check it out. I want to see Nigerians who are involved in sports. Last 2 weeks I was there, young girls, gymnasts who have gone to South Africa, represented this country, age 8, 10, 12. They won several gold medals.
Wow.
Several. I think sometime in January they'll be in this office to meet with me, and then we can really show them to Nigerians. With their parents, working with them on a daily basis. These girls are already stars. The gold in them is being built. That's what I'm talking about. So when these girls in 10 years' time win gold for this country, that's the work of about 12, 14 years ago. So my interest is really looking at these young ones, see them in different sports, and then try to put them together and see what we can do to have a plan we can fit them into.
Fantastic, fantastic. I wouldn't let you go without, because you have, well, was it an accusation or you accepted the fact that, yes, I love sports?
Yes.
Now,
with a bias for football.
Yes.
And perhaps swimming.
Yes, a bias for football and swimming. But I must still ask you questions about the youth in Nigeria, because really and truly, the ball stops at your table here.
Right.
What plans are in place to ensure that Nigeria as a nation, in spite of our abundance of talents, that we produce youth who can compete in any area of endeavor at all, and to ensure that, they plow back into the society?
But thank you so much for that question, because perhaps one of my other passions is youth development. This ministry has two clear mandates: sports development and youth development. And I think that when you look at the sheer number in the millions of our youth in this country, and you look at the opportunities they have, which is shrinking, by the way, you look at the challenges they face, you look at the fact that even for the continent alone, you have between 15 and 18 million youth graduating and going to the job market, with only 3 million getting jobs. And when you come down to Nigeria, the data is depressing. It's also about 28 to 30% unemployment rate. So the challenge of our time, and I keep saying it, the Nigerian project really should be about youth development. This country must invest in the youth. And the Ministry of Youth and Sports is working in that direction, in the sense that we live in a digital economy. We've seen reports that says there's a skills gap. The jobs are there, but there's a skills gap. We have youth that are not employable. There's a question of employability. So our focus is how to provide our youth with the 21st century digital tools and skills that they need to be able to find jobs, to be able to self-start and become entrepreneurs, and to be able to compete with their peers. Not just jobs in Nigeria, because if you have digital skills, it's cross-cutting and it's global. So if you're good in cloud computing, for instance, or AI, if you land in America today, you're going to find a job. So we need to equip them. So we started a program called the DY.NG, Digital Youth Nigeria, with a focus of we need to ratchet up the numbers. People have been trained, but in the hundreds and thousands. We're looking at the 500,000 youth in the next 2 years. Give them the necessary digital skills. A 3 months, 2 months program that churns them out, give them certification, and then supports them. Of course, the umbrella, the nomenclature under which that is DEAL. DEEL. That is digital skills acquisition. That's digital literacy. E for entrepreneurship. The second E for employability. And the last one for leadership and mentorship, which is critical.
Yes.
We say the youth are the leaders of tomorrow. But then, if you don't prepare these leaders today, you don't give them the skills they have, you don't open them up to the opportunities they need, they cannot be leaders tomorrow. So we're also looking at going to the government, working with the government to create a national or a Nigerian youth development fund. And there are quite a number of countries in Africa who are benchmarking who have done that. And we have seen how that has changed the narrative. We're working with strategic implementation partners, AFDB, Junior Achievement, and a couple of others, IBM, to just make sure that we quickly ratchet up the numbers of our youth across the country that are given exposure to these digital skills in various areas. Not just those that have gone to universities or those with diplomas. Even those at the bottom who are not literate, they're also youth. You can infuse technology into vocational training. We're trying to encourage technical education, which is critical. You go to Thailand, they've been able to create about 5,000 smart farmers because they were trained on digital tools for farming. They were able to use Pearsons in the UK to come and train about 250,000 youth on digital skills. And these have gone on to also train others and the processors. So what we have now, we have a template that will take our youth through these processes and give them 3 opportunities. It gives you the skills that gives you what we call the A, added advantage. So beyond your university degree, you have an added advantage because you've gained an extra digital skill. So your chances of getting employed is greater. Your chances of starting your own business is greater. Secondly, you can easily become an entrepreneur if you get these skills. Or you can also form groups. Thirdly, you can be able to compete with other African youth when the opportunities are out there. Because when you submit your resume, it shows that you've also acquired the kind of skill that is necessary for the job that you're in. But of course, the one that is really close to my heart, is what we call the work employment program. The idea is we want to see how we can take hundreds of thousands of our youth who are out there plugging their resumes every month, 2 or 3 years, looking for a job. And then once they get selected, they tell them, sorry, we've seen your resume, you finished 5 years ago, no experience. We can take you. Now, we're working with organizations to say, let's plug these people into some 3-month internship program, experience program. A civil engineer would talk to Julius Baja, we talk to indigenous construction companies, place them. An accountant, companies have different...
That gives the experience
it gives the experience required. And then it gives them opportunities. One, if you're good enough, they retain you. Even if they can't retain you for some reasons, you step out, on your resume, you put 3 months experience on the job. They will call them to say, yeah, that gives you an edge, an added advantage. If not, just working within that environment gets you thinking, and you realize, listen, I could call 1 or 2 of my other friends who are civil engineers, who could form a small civil engineering company and start something. So the idea is that we need to give our youth opportunities. The government and the private sector must work together, international funding agencies, and we're exploring all of that. Private organizations, international funding agencies. Of course, government resources is limited, but then we're plugging into all of that. And I think with that, our youth will get better opportunities.
Well, I wish you the very best of luck. But don't mind me if I want to sound like a pessimist here. Yes, our youths will get, all the opportunities that can be provided.
Right.
But I'm sure you'll also agree with me that in Nigeria today, we have a lot of youth who, much as we have the ones who want to work, we also have a lot of lazy ones amongst us. We have a lot of youths who prefer the easy way out rather than getting trained and towing the right path, the get-rich-quick syndrome,
Right.
and of course some youth restiveness. How do we begin to arrest this? Bearing in mind that some of them already have their ideologies formed and are not likely to kowtow to, your
Well,
plan.
when you look at it, the question I will put out there is that what percentage of our youth are we talking about that are not willing to take up the challenge, that lack the initiative, that want the easy way out? It's not a huge percentage.
Yeah, but we must carry them along.
We'll carry them along. But also I think it also boils down to the fact that what opportunities have been opened up to them. The opportunities out there for our youth are not many. And government is now committed this time around to expand the bouquet of opportunities so that they can apply themselves to that. You see, the youth challenge, there's a youth bulge in Nigeria. There's a youth bulge in Nigeria across the continent. Yes, there is. And there's a concerted effort on the part of the continental body, African Union, for instance. November was the Africa Youth Month.
Yes.
And what are the overriding things? The mantra is that 1 million by 2021,
Okay.
focusing on 4 key areas. They call it the 4 E's: employment,
Okay.
education, entrepreneurship, and engagement. That if we focus on these 4 key areas, we can lift our youth out of poverty, we can lift them out of unemployment, we can keep them busy. Now, if that plan is followed through on the part of government, and Nigeria has plugged in, what we have derived from that 4 E's is our program that I talked about, DY.NG, the WEP, and the rest. If we stay through to those 4, I think our youth will plug in. And I think that to a very large extent, given the opportunities, given the fact that if they're able to apply themselves to the opportunities out there, we'll begin to build up the critical mass of our youth who can also, peer-to-peer influence. And then we can start to change the narrative, as they say, and then see how things work. But then I tell you, developing our youth is not the work of government alone. It cannot be. The families are involved. It's a collective responsibility. The village, the society, the community, the private sector, it has to be a collective response.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. One last question. Don't mind me. One very, very last question now. We know that there are some youths, who are excelling in some chosen fields and who have done particularly well, outstanding.
Outliers.
Yes. Are there any plans, in place for such youth, for the government or even with private initiative, to encourage them and to lift them to greater heights?
Yes. Well, I wouldn't say there's a policy in place, but I think that they have access to the government. And I would just answer that question by giving an example.
Okay.
The young boy in the UK, born of Nigerian parents,
Yes.
he was there 3 months ago, is now listed as one of the top robotics engineer in the world.
Yes.
Came recently. I didn't meet him. But then we have started talks about him to say, the youth are into robotics, games, and all of that. We're at a point in which he's going to come back next year to set up
Okay.
a robotics lab, an academy here in Abuja. He has agreed. So imagine we set that up. From one simple robotic engineer, we can have most of our young ones. We begin to build that up. And I think in a deliberate way, the ministry this time around is trying to seek out some of our youth that are excelled. One of them is Adekunle, who went to Yale, who almost died because of fake drug. Developed an equipment that could detect fake drug. He's celebrated across the world. I've been talking to him in the last 3 months. He says, I'm willing to come once you have a program I can plug in. I can spend time to come and train youth for some time. So we're going to work with a few of them in a deliberate way. That's what I said. It's going to take a collective response.
Wow. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Thank you for spending time with us.
Absolutely.
Yes, and like I said, I hope we're going to probably take a drive together.
Well, it's not for the faint-hearted.
Don't worry about that. I'm
If
up
you're
to
ready,
the task.
just like the speed on the Autobahn in Germany.
Yes.
So those rides are not for the faint-hearted.
Don't worry, there is no faint
All
heart
right,
here.
fasten your seatbelt.
And I
then
will
we take
fasten
off.
that seat belt.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you
a
for
part of
having
the
me.
show. Thank you so much. Wow, that's been a very interesting time out with the Honorable Minister of Youth and Sports in Nigeria in person of Mr. Sunday Akindari. I'm taking away football from here because I'm just leaving the Office of Sports, but I'm sure that you've enjoyed our discuss today. Do join us again same time next week for another interesting time out on the program Executive Discuss. You never can tell who our guest will be. So do stay tuned. I remain Ololade Adeniji Adele. Bye-bye.